Hello, I'm Dr. Elijah Fagurala, one of the GP trainees in the Northeast. Um, just a few disclaimer. I'm not employed by the 14 Fish, neither am I an expert in eportfolio. I'm just sharing my experience and hopefully it will make your own engagement with your eportfolio a bit easier and better. Firstly, I want to apologize for the way my whiteboard is a bit crowded, but we will go through each and every point and hopefully we will get some point out of it. Today is one of those series, Knowing Your E-Portfolio, and we've titled this 104. And we will be talking about capabilities. Remember in the last video, we talked briefly about capability and experience groups. And I mentioned to you there are about 13 capabilities you will be assessed on, and these are basically all of them. And let's start with the fitness to practice. Fitness to practice just means anything that affects your practice. So take for example, um, have you read something that you think would improve your practice? That is one of the things you could put there. Are you improving your knowledge? And that is one of the things. If you help a friend to overcome any issue, or you spot any issue with your friend and you discuss with them, fitness to practice. Anything that helps to increase patient safety is something that you can put there. The other one is maintaining an ethical approach. As the word ethical just means, it just means doing the right thing, following all the rules and regulation by the GMC. So if you want, for example, to examine a patient that needs a chaperone and you provide a chaperone for them, that is somewhere you could put in. If you are consulting with very vulnerable groups, and that is one of the places you could put it as well. um, so that's basically what ethical approach is. I'll be rushing swiftly over these things. I mean, you can go to the rcgp website or the 14 fish or many other online resources to look in depth about it. This is just like an appetizer to just whet your appetite about these things. So communication and consultation skills, that just talks about your communication skill. Were you able to elicit ideas, concerns, and expectation from your patient? Were you able to meet your patient's agenda? Was the consultation, was it fine? Did you use language or words that were understandable by your patient? Were you able to communicate to the patient what you were planning to do, and your management? That is where you put communication and consultation skill. Gathering data and interpretation. So gathering data just means history taking. You are able to, from your history, from the investigation, able to make a diagnosis of what may be wrong with your patient. And this may not just be all of that. Even if you gather other things, take for example, you're dealing with a young adult and you were able to get a history of abuse, and that kind of change your management plan or other things you had to do, that is where you put data gathering and interpretation on. Clinical examination and procedural skills. As the words just says, if you examine a patient, abdominal examination, respiratory examination, cardiovascular examination, examination of the knee, all those things are where you put clinical examination on. Making a decision and diagnosis. So if you were able to gather all that information, do your examination, and you are able to make a diagnosis of what is wrong with your patient, that is where you put that. If you are able to demonstrate that, from all that you did, you are able to make a proper diagnosis of that patient, that is where you put it. Or make a decision on the management plan for your patient, that is where you put it, that is where you link it to. making a decision and diagnosis. Clinical management, as it says, managing your patient correctly, signposting them in the right direction. That is, and many other things. Using the right medication. All that is clinical management. Managing medical complexity. That is just things that are apart from the clinical aspect, something that had to do with other things that pertaining to the patient. Maybe you were able to prescribe or signpost them to social prescribing, or you were able to kind of understand and deal with all the complexity with your patient. That is where you put or you link that. Working with colleagues and teams, that just says, if you manage a patient and you had to call in maybe the community nurse, or you had to call in the physiotherapist, or you had to refer to many other specialty, and you were in touch with them, talking to them, or even if you had to speak to the admin about them, or anybody working with you in in the management of your patient, you could put it there. Maintaining performance, learning, and teaching. It just most of these things simply explains themselves by their words, but it's just good to add one or two explanation to it. So it's just about learning and teaching. So if you read something or you went for a course and you got a certificate, for example, you improve your knowledge about anything, you do the self test in rcgp website. That is where you could put that. Yeah. Organization management and leadership. So if you were a chair of a group, or you went to a course, or and you were able to organize the team, and you did a presentation, for example, that is somewhere you can put in. Or if there was an audit and you were the lead or the champion of that, you could put it there as well. Practicing holistic and promoting health and safeguarding. So any issues with safeguarding vulnerable people, giving them leaflets, or educating them about their health, that is where you put it. So it's not so much about medicine, but you included other things affecting them, and you kind of educated them about it. That's where you put it. Community orientation. Community orientation is the last capabilities, capabilities that you have there, and that is just if you in your management you involved the community services, maybe the district nurse, maybe the community nurse, or the community physio. Those are anything that involves the community. That is where you link it up. So I hope hopefully that with this little explanation has kind of whet your appetite and made it a bit simpler for you, so that you can now go and start to link your capabilities with all your entry. You can read more on the rcgp website, all the 14 fish as well. And I wish you all the best. I hope this video has helped. So till I make another video, see ya. Bye now.